Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Courtney Johnson. I represent the Nez Perce tribe on the Portland Harbor Natural Resource Trustee Council. Also in the room tonight, we have Lauren Senker and Laurel Jennings from the NOAA Restoration Center, also representatives on the Trustee Council. And I believe we also have Julie Weiss here. She represents the Siletz tribe on the Trustee Council as well. I'm going to do most of the presenting. It sounded like I'm the one with the most likely stable internet, so hopefully that's true and it doesn't backfire on us, but I'll go through, but then hopefully those folks can be here to jump in to answer questions when we get into discussion later on. So we wanted to respond to the steering committee's request that we come and talk a little bit about our recreation planning updates. So I'm going to give just a brief overview reminder of who we are as the Trustee Council, really dive into a little bit of what we're doing for recreation planning, and hopefully get some feedback, get into some conversation and get some feedback from folks about what that recreation restoration might look like in Portland Harbor. So that's our main kind of goals for tonight. And again, I think we'll probably just go through the presentation, but then hopefully have an opportunity for a couple of different ways to gather feedback, and would love your help to do that as we go forward. So just as a reminder, or for new folks in the room, the Portland Harbor Trustee Council was formed in 2002 to conduct the natural resource damage assessment. It's made up of federal, state, and tribal trustees. You can see the list of who is on the Trustee Council here on the slide. And I want to point out too that the Yakima Nation is also a natural resource trustee at the site, but participates in different ways in the process. The main task of the Trustee Council is to essentially perform this natural resource damage assessment. So that's really to evaluate how contamination, releases of contaminants at Portland Harbor has injured resources. So fish, bald eagle, mink, those natural resources that are within the Portland Harbor, and the services that the public is entitled to that go along with that. So like recreation and like cultural resources. So we're evaluating injury to really these three different categories of injuries that you see on the right: ecological, tribal, and recreational resources. We evaluate what that impact is. We then plan for restoration for all of that injury. And we're also recovering and getting compensation from the parties that were responsible for those injuries. So for those releases of contaminants into the harbor. Tonight, we're really going to focus on this recreational piece. Other times we've talked a little bit about our ecological process. So you may have some background on that, but we are really just kind of getting into diving deeper on the recreational resource restoration. So back in 2017, the Trustee Council published the programmatic EIS and restoration plan. And in that, there was a long discussion about what types of injuries might have occurred, how we're going to go about planning. And we did address there some of our recreation objectives. Namely, these ones that we have here, they're really about improving recreation opportunities in the Portland Harbor area, increasing access to the shoreline, improving fishing opportunities, and being consistent with the cleanup objectives of the work that EPA is leading, and being consistent with our ecological restoration projects that you may have heard about before. There's also a section in this document that talks a little bit more about some recreation restoration types, and that's in section 5.6 of this document as well. So given those objectives, these are the types of priorities that we've started thinking about as we're going into this early planning phase. We're really thinking again about fishing and recreation activities. We're thinking about safe access, observation points, educational opportunities, and again, really limiting the ecological impact. So the PEIS actually says in there, we're not so much looking at things like construction of new big infrastructure, where like docks, where that would have an ecological impact as well. And also, very importantly, incorporating equity and environmental justice principles. And part of that is what's driving some of this early outreach work that we're doing now. We want to make sure that the trustee council doesn't go so far down the path of planning without actually getting input from the public about really what the values are and what types of things might be of interest and importance to our broad and diverse community here in Portland. So we're going to actually ask for some input on that in just a couple of minutes here. Just a little bit more about our process. We're really just starting this early public outreach now. We're gathering ideas for project types. And then we'll go into our kind of planning process where we'll do, again, kind of a restoration plan with some more public process. And that will all lead into how we're actually going to use the funds that we're able to recover from the responsible parties, the participating parties for these projects. And again, we're going to have more opportunities for input. This really is this kind of informal process that we're starting with. We're anticipating keeping this section open kind of through the fall. And then we'll go into kind of publishing that draft plan with a public comment period in the spring. And we'll finalize that plan and go through getting those funds actually from the parties and then implementing projects. So again, really early in the process, but we're really happy to have the opportunity to talk about it with the collaborative and get some input as we keep going. I would also just add here that this is a great reason to be on our listserv. By being on our email list for the trustee council, you'll make sure to not miss these future opportunities that will be coming up for public engagement. So as we get into the planning, we're really interested in hearing from the community about the recreation opportunities and what would be important. So this is a form that we have put together. It's just a Google form. We are hoping that collaborative members will complete this form and share it broadly with their communities. So if you're a member of a group, if you're on an email listserv, please share this out. We also plan to distribute this form via email and on our trustee council website in the coming week or two. And we're imagining, again, keeping this form open through the fall so that hopefully folks will have time to fill this out. Again, the idea is that this information, it's only 5 questions. It shouldn't take too long, but the idea is this helps inform us about the types of projects that would be of most interest and most value to the public. That way we can kind of have that in mind as we start to picture and plan for what the projects might look like and how we're going to go about developing those. And I would just ask too that if there's anything that comes to mind about something that might help you share this document out, this form out with folks, let us know so that we can help support that. We really are hoping that this is an easy way to gather input from a broad range of our community. And I think that should be in the chat. I can't actually see the chat right now, but yeah, I see some nods. Okay. Okay, and so to kind of get the juices flowing about the questions that are in this form, we're hoping to maybe start that conversation here today. So we're thinking about types of projects that might be exciting for what this recreation restoration could look like. The form also has some questions about location where folks are using the river so that we can get a better sense of what amenities along the river in Portland are really of value and how folks are kind of traveling to and from the river. So we have some sense of that too. But we're thinking maybe we could kind of start with a Jamboard to just get some early feedback and have a place to start that conversation.